Hi, I'm Jenna Kelly, and you're watching the Green Girl Minute, and I'm in Aspen, Colorado right now at the Aspen Institute at the For the Forest event, which is connecting the dots between climate change and forest health. And I'm really thrilled to be here with Tom Van Dike, who's the head of SRI Investing at RBC. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. So you're the head of socially responsible investing. Talk to us about what that is exactly.
What's the idea of combining your values and putting the environment, social, and governance issues in your investment portfolio without compromising performance? And that way, the capital markets can help create change much more quickly than litigation or regulation.
So what kind of examples are those?
So some of the things are clean technology, or some of the things that people want to be investing in, where we're changing from a fossil fuel-based system to one based on cleaner, renewable technologies. Or we're looking at avoiding certain companies that end up polluting and externalizing their costs off their balance sheet and onto the balance sheets of the U.S. taxpayers in many cases. And that way, we don't see that as a free market, we see that as a subsidized market. Kind of like Bobby Kennedy says, you show me pollution, I'll show you a subsidy. So we're against pollution and subsidies, and we're for free markets. And what's green ultimately is green to the bottom line of a company because it identifies the best practices of a management team. So you can actually outperform by looking at your portfolio and reviewing companies that have good sustainable practices. They treat their employees as assets rather than costs. And those kind of management teams will outperform those that are more exploitative.
Okay. And so you're talking about wind, solar, biomass, those sorts of companies?
Yeah, energy efficiency, all sorts of things. It could be transportation. Our transportation system will go from a petrochemical molecule to an electron most likely. We're hearing today about how the destruction of pollution, carbon dioxide pollution, is affecting our trees and our natural resources. We, as an economy and as a society, need to realize that the system that's going to win is that's most sustainable and uses our resources much more wisely as the population expands, as the emerging markets come online. So we can't just go about exploiting resources and people the way we used to. We need to do it in a much more sustainable way, and ultimately, that's better for the bottom line of a company anyway.
You must be very excited about President Obama's State of the Union address when he talked about renewable energy and moving towards a clean tech economy.
Yes, I'm looking for some actual policy behind those words, and that's, we need an energy bill passed. There's ways to bring jobs, and what people don't realize, if we put a price on carbon, that what will ultimately happen is jobs will be moved to the United States because shipping things across the ocean will become more expensive. So they'll do the technological advances, say in China, they'll ship the little wafers over the ocean, and then they'll assemble them into solar panels like SunPower does right now in Richmond, California, in a very poor black area, and in fact in an old Ford power plant that Rosie the Riveter used to work in. They now assemble solar panels in this area and employ a number of people in the local community. So a tax on carbon will actually create more manufacturing opportunities in the United States and actually create more jobs.
So that's what we need from government right now is a tax on carbon and an energy bill?
We need a price on carbon for sure. And I think a tax is, and most economists, I don't think there's a single economist who believe that's the most efficient way to do it. They talk about cap and trade doing it, but it leaves a lot of opportunities for gaming the system by Goldman Sachs, and we've just gone through a big gaming of the housing system and various mortgages. So we might want to be a little bit more thoughtful as to how we do that. As business leaders, what you want is you want to know what your costs are, and you want to know what they look like going out in the future. So I would say like a $25 tax on carbon increased $5 a year for 20 years, ramp it up to $125. I now can plan my costs accordingly, and I can then make changes in how I need to and what I want to invest as far as plant and manufacturing goes moving forward to make that accommodation.
And if a tax doesn't happen, do you think it's still going to be moving in that direction? It's just going to take more time, or?
Well, I think we'll get a price on carbon. And I think the business, management teams that realize that within their industry will be able to beat those management teams that don't. Okay, because they're going to be using their resources more wisely. They're not going to be wasting natural resources than, for example, like coal. Okay, you have coal fly ash. We don't pay, those are stored in unlined waste that's right now that leak into the water potentially. So that, hurts our communities. Asthma, arsenic pollution, those situations hurt our healthcare. That cost we are now picking up as a U.S. taxpayer, and it's not embedded in the price of coal, where solar, wind, and other renewable energies actually have their environmental externalities are priced into it already. So in coal, in the case of coal and nuclear and other fossil fuels, the carbon dioxide pollution is actually flying off their balance sheets and is not properly assessed where it belongs. The price of coal should be much more expensive, but we as a taxpayer are subsidizing that.
Right, and I think most people don't realize that those externalities aren't taken into account for.
That's exactly right, and they say that it's going to cost jobs, but actually it'll create jobs. If we move from a centralized power source to a decentralized power source of solar panels on rooftops, through property assessed clean energy, which is something the government could pass right away. It's something called property assessed clean energy, where you could actually put a solar panel on your house and assess it against your property tax, like a school tax assessment district bond. If they did that, you could all of a sudden have a number of people putting solar panels on their house all over the place. It'd be decentralized power. It's going to go on for 20 years. We'd have to shift our system from one that is based on fossil fuel to decentralized power. Do you realize we waste 50% of all the electrons we produce just evaporate into thin air? So
Wow.
we're burning all this coal and we waste all these electrons. I don't know a single industry that exists with 50% waste associated with it.
Well, I hope people pick up on this and start learning about what you're talking about, because things need to change.
Well, there's a lot of economic efficiencies in this. So as a result, that's where we need to function with economic efficiency, and that's why what is green from a sustainability standpoint is actually green at the bottom line. It saves money, creates jobs, it's the smart thing to do, and it preserves, it creates an economy for our kids to inherit in a world that will actually still exist.
So it's really putting the green in green, the dollar sign in the green. So
That's right, green girl.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for talking to us today, Tom.
Thank
really
you for having me.
appreciate it. And we'll be back with more Green Girl Minute in a moment.